Folks, one of the most interesting races of this upcoming election season is going to be in Minnesota, the race for governor. We have the Mike Lindell, the only one and only Mike Lindell, needs no introduction, who is running for governor on the Republican ticket and actually has, according to analysts, a reasonable shot at winning, even in this heavy Democratic state. He's extremely well known. He's very popular among people who know him, even among people who don't necessarily agree with his politics. People just think of him as a lovable, nice guy that you might want to have a beer with or hang out with. So we have him joining us today here on Conversations That Matter. Mike, welcome to the program. Thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on, Alex.
It's an honor and a pleasure. Mike, let's just start at the beginning. Why did you decide you wanted to run for governor of Minnesota?
Well, I've lived in Minnesota my whole life, and you've seen back, 5 years ago, when it was right before the China virus, when I spoke at the Rose Garden, I said God had been taken out of our schools. A nation had turned its back on God. We need to spend time getting back in the Word, back with our families, and I could have just well been talking about Minnesota. I've watched it. I've lived there all my life. I watched things change where it's just absolutely nonsensical. Nothing makes sense anymore. You watch things happening I'll give an example. Our schools, let's not even mention the fraud, but then our school systems, we spent 29% more in our schools. In the same time period, we went from number 3 in the nation to 35. And, I'm just watching it go downhill. I'm watching Minneapolis and St. Paul. 30 minutes from there. I spent a lot of time downtown, lived downtown for a while. It's very dear to me. I spent, when I came out of crack cocaine addiction years ago, I spent so much time down there, years down there with Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, the private sector, working to get people, to help people out of homelessness, addiction, and all this. And I've just watched it all to me, and also, Minnesota is the Trojan horse for Sharia law. I've been saying this for a decade now, and now you can say it because it's before you were a racist if you said it, but now with all the fraud going on, it's pretty right out in the open. So there's so many things that need to be done as governor, and I feel I'm the only one that can win. In Minnesota, in the presidential level, we've been blue since 1972. They don't know how to win in Minnesota. Our Republican Party, for one thing, you have this, you go for their endorsement in May, but then you don't have your primary till August. And by that time, we're already voting 45 days early, and you don't have enough time to raise awareness, whoever the candidate is. And I have a national platform. I can win. And I think the timing's right. I said I was going to run in 2022, Alex, and but then after the 2020 election, I told everybody I'm not running. I wouldn't run to be a dog catcher unless these machines were gone and we had our elections secure. And I believe that there's been enough stuff in place now where we'll be too big to rig, so to speak.
That's excellent, Mike. And I wanted to ask you about elections. There's a lot happening at the federal level now. The president has ordered federal agencies to hand over all the documents and intelligence they have on election fraud from 2020 to Kurt Olson, who, of course, you know very well. I actually met him through you at one of your events. You and him worked on election security issues for a long time. And just based on the media response, I mean, looking at Politico and NBC News, it looks like the establishment's in something of a panic about this. So what do you know about it? And are you excited that these documents are going to be handed over?
They're very upset. Kurt and I have been together since February of 2021. Everything in this country with election fraud, I believe, came through us. We were the hub of the wheel. Kurt sorted it for me. Hey, Kurt, what do you think? Here, check this out. We were flooded and absolutely flooded with fraud and data and you name it during 2021 and 2022. I turned in last February to the government a book about an inch thick, maybe an inch and a half thick, reports from our Cause of America Election Crime Bureau, and Kurt was very familiar with everything on there, as was I, both of us, and having the president take Kurt right underneath them because the DOJ and the stuff, they weren't putting out the evidence fast enough, or even, how long does it take to look through all this evidence? And we are so blessed that they to have Kurt Olson there with the president, and being able to get these things right out where they should have been 5 years ago, like in Georgia, the ballots there, Pennsylvania, more votes than voters. Right now, you have Nevada that came out. We're going to have Arizona, all this coming out of Arizona. Every state had fraud, everybody, just like I always said. But I think what the president wants to show here is that, hey, the election was stolen, all the swing states, every one of them he won. And I think to show that, I think it's a great transition into showing all the people, because remember, everybody, 80% of all people want the voter ID that he's put out through the Save America Act. So I think, Alex, this is a great strategy that having Kurt Olson put this out now, get all this out there so all the public can see it. And you have Democrats and Republicans of the people. I'm not talking the politician, the people going, what? This is, we want to secure our elections. We want secure elections. Of course we need voter ID, for our elections. You get checked out if you buy cough syrup, if you go to, you can do anything. You go to the airport, whatever you're doing, you need an ID. Yeah. And, certainly our elections are most sacred critical infrastructure, which Obama deemed them critical infrastructure. And, so I'm very excited. I was excited. This was this summer when the president made that decision. Let's bring Kurt in because things are moving too slow as they sift through data that I had and others had. We had, remember, the Cause of America is 300,000 people strong in all 50 states, and they've been working tirelessly for 5 years. And to have all the stuff we found, you turn it in, you're going, okay, look at this. And it was moving too slow. And I think it's great. Kurt hasn't been there that long. And already you see Georgia and many other states that all this fraud is coming out. So I think it's a great thing. Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's encouraging for sure. Mike, you, of course, are in Minnesota. You live in Minnesota. It's your home. And Minnesota has been kind of the center of the political world for at least the last few weeks now with ICE and with the Somali fraud in Minneapolis. Talk to us a little bit. Let's start with the fraud. The massive levels of welfare fraud and daycare fraud and education fraud. I mean, it seems to be like a cottage industry in Minnesota. What's the deal with that? And what would you do differently as governor to try to crack down on some of that?
Well, first of all, this is one of the biggest blessings. You're going to look back, everybody, just like the 2020 election was probably the most important election in history and the biggest blessing this country's ever seen, because this is what's opened up. It makes opened up people's eyes, just like this fraud in Minnesota that now we figure is over $20 billion. Well, and it's not just Minnesota. You're going to find that out, but we are the hub of the wheel, so to speak, of fraud. And I'll tell you right now, with what was going on with ICE, you bring up ICE. I think this had to happen. People are saying, "Oh, it's weak. The presidency's pulling back now. You can go protest and you can win." Well, no. You look at the big picture. We had to pull them back to get these laws that the protesters are breaking. This needs to stop so we can put the focus back on the fraud. That's the number one thing, everybody. The number one thing is this fraud and what's going on in Minnesota and other states too. And I'll tell you, Alex, Minneapolis has one of the most stringent, ready for this, protest laws in the country. There's 8 of them listed out. And then there's 7 Minnesota fraud, or protest laws that are later on top of that, plus the federal laws. We are the biggest violator of them in the country. Nobody's even close. You can say Portland, but we started it all about 10 years ago, maybe longer. They let Black Lives Matter block off 35W, our biggest interstate, 8-lane highway. They let block off both sides. So you couldn't get north or south of the cities. I couldn't get my workers from Minneapolis out to MyPillow. We couldn't get supplies. It was disgusting. And what's going on now is I call my friends that live downtown and they're going, this is terrible. Our neighborhoods, protesters have blocked off streets, and you come into your own neighborhood and they go, hey, let me see your ID. Where do you live? Do you live over here? Isn't that ironic? They're checking IDs, right? It's disgusting. What you need to do is you need to, first and foremost, you enforce the protester laws. You make them gross misdemeanors and felonies. I'm telling you, you don't get to be a protester and block me from walking down a sidewalk or driving down a road. You have permits that you're supposed to get if they're big enough. If they're not, if they're, yeah, there could be some that I don't have enough people where you don't need a permit, but you know what? You do it over here and you stay in your lane, you stay in your spot. We're listening to you from the side. You don't block us and you don't commit crimes protesting. It's very simple. It's common sense. So the first thing I will do as governor would be, enforce these protester laws and get law enforcement back in there. And they're doing that right now in Minneapolis. The police now are just starting to, because they've got the go-ahead to stop these protesters from going down the street at night and smashing everybody's window. 37 cars, windows smashed out. This is just crazy. But I would do that. And then also you got to look into these welfare programs with these fraud. It's not only removing the fraud, but let's just look at these programs and all these welfare programs. I don't care what state you're in, but let's just use Minnesota. Do you get a good return on your investment? Are they really good programs? Because let's not forget, if they're good programs, not only we as taxpayers lost all that money, but what about the people that it was intended to? What about the people that might have needed that? Okay, we need to check into that and say, okay, do these programs work? Just like a CEO, like I am with MyPillow, does this work? Do we get it? Does it really help people? This was my wheelhouse, Alex, for 17 years now since I quit my addictions, and I went all in to help the homeless, people in addiction. I worked with Teen Challenge, Salvation Armies in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Rochester, Minnesota, Detroit, Michigan. That's all it was philanthropy. We went out and gave millions and helped millions of people homeless and veterans and what have you. So what I want to do as governor, I have a program that was kind of like a give, send, go. Private people in the private sector want to help. They want to help, but they want to be very specific. They might be partial to people that are homeless. Maybe they're partial to people that have addiction. Maybe they're people that have mental illness. You need to bring back these mental facilities that were turned away in the early 1970s. But when you do that, we did this prototype in Detroit, and we ended up, it was about 42%. I was the government. I paid all the overhead, and we had people reach out. We reached out to the private sector, said, hey, you guys can help all these. It was like a big board of give, send, goes. By combining the private sector with these welfare programs that are going to be vetted, can you imagine saving another 40% above and beyond the $30 million in fraud or whatever? And also, of course, we've got to put a lot of politicians in prison. I think they're probably going to be in prison before I get in office next November when I win. Your Elon Omar, your Keith Ellison, Attorney General, Tim Walz, and the governor or the mayor of Minneapolis. I mean, this is disgusting what's going on. I mean, we even have our ATMs written in Somalian. I mean, you can't, I hit the wrong button the other day. I go, what is this? And, so banning Sharia law in Minnesota, that's another thing I'm going to do right away. You have to do it. It's gotten out of hand where they can't assimilate and match our Constitution. Our businesses are hurting there. But I've got a lot of ideas that I want to put in.
On illegal immigration, Mike, I know one of the big sticking points with the Trump administration is that state and local authorities in Minnesota were not cooperating with ICE when they had illegal immigrants. And I assume you would change that as governor and start fully cooperating with the feds?
Well, absolutely. I'm friends with everyone that's in this administration. Now I have all their phone numbers on speed dial, and including my great friend, the president. And you got to work with them and on the state and federal level, work together. I mean, right now in Minnesota, and I don't have the sheet on me, so don't quote me on this, or for facts, but I believe every inmate there, there's thousands and thousands of illegals in Minnesota prisons. and the cost to house them in these prisons is astronomical. The number I seen was crazy. I don't want to put out the numbers, or though someone will watch your show and they'll go, Mike Lindell doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a conspiracy theorist. No, this is very real. It's in the tens of millions of dollars. Even if you just gave those illegals and took them out of the prison and say, just get them out of here, send them back, put them in their own countries and get them gone. Just that savings alone, but you can't allow these sanctuary cities. You can't allow this anymore. Alex, there's even more of a problem. That another part that people don't look at are the employers of these illegals that are paying them cash, everybody. I want everyone to really listen to this. They're avoiding FICA tax. They're avoiding matching the federal taxes on there, your Social Securities, your FICA taxes, and they're stealing. These employers are stealing from us, all of us. They're not just allowing, and they're the ones benefiting from paying cash to these illegals. And as you've seen, suitcases of money being shipped out of Minneapolis into to Somalia and other places. So I will go after the employers too, Alex. I will go after the employers. These guys it's not just enabling, they're stealing from the American taxpayer. They're stealing from us.
Yeah. Well, Mike, you're involved in all sorts of ventures in addition to your run for office. You've got Lindell TV, which is a wonderful network. You've got MyPillow. You've got your philanthropic endeavors. And one thing that runs through all of them, and I've known you for some years now, is your faith. How would your faith affect the way you govern? I mean, what is the role of Christianity and the Bible in trying to govern righteously and wisely?
Well, I couldn't have got this far if it wasn't for my faith. MyPillow's been the most attacked company in history. There's nothing any close. Our own government through Arctic frost attacked that. It's been attacked through lawfare. In fact, in Minnesota, our own party's pushing back, saying, Mike Lindell's a conspiracy theorist. He brings baggage with him. No, I bring the receipts. I'm still standing, and I still was able to navigate through this storm by my faith in God. And so MyPillow's still here. I'm still here. All the lies out there. Mike goes $5 million for his evidence is no good. That was overturned in the 8th Circuit. Yes, Mike was right. So all of these things that the media is saying, and that you hear is a complete lie. I mean, I'm still here. I'm the same person back when I invented MyPillow, when I had all my troubles in my life with addiction. I turned my life over to God and gave my life to Jesus on February 18, 2017, everybody. And I can wake up every day and keep going and have the faith to keep going. And I'll tell you, Alex, people come up to me all the time. Back when I did that speech at the Rose Garden and said God had been taken out of our schools and and the nation had turned its back on God, and we need to pray for grace for such a time as this. People came up to me all the time during these last 5 years. Mike, this doesn't feel like grace. And I go, oh, but it is. We're in the best time in history to be alive. I said, yeah, and well, I prayed for this and it didn't happen. I prayed for this and it didn't happen. Well, you know what? It might not be, everybody listen, God's will or God's timing. For me, I've had to learn this, Alex. I'm not very patient. If you look up patience, you don't see my picture, but you will see I've had to learn that. And where is God's will? God's will is in the Word. So every day I get in the Word with my wife. We get in the Word. We read our Bibles. And then you can be proactive in prayer, and everybody, it lines up beautifully. You see things from a much bigger picture. You don't worry about these smaller things that you think are so big at the time end up being so important that they had to happen, even if they were bad things, to get to this beautiful place where God's bringing us on God's timing.
Amen. Mike, we're almost out of time, but how do people find out more about your campaign? And if they're in Minnesota, how do they get involved?
You guys, right now it's MikeLindellGov.com. That's MikeLindellGov.com. Really need your help. I plan on winning 250,000 people that voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Did not even bother to vote in 2022. I'm going after them. I'm polling number one right now with the Republicans. It came out a week ago Friday. It's MikeLindellGov.com. Donate now. Get involved now. We are going to win this. I'm using the basically a lot of the same stuff our great president used when I helped him in his campaign. And then Minnesota's the tip of the spear. We have to win. It is critical.
Yeah, Minnesota is such an important state. Folks, that was CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell, the head of the Lindell TV network, Lindell Recovery, author of multiple books, and now the next governor of Minnesota. Mike, thank you very much for joining us. God bless you, sir, and I hope we can talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Alex.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's all we have time for today, but go check out his website. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter for the New American. Until next time, thanks for watching. God bless you all.